Alright, what is good? UFC Fight Night Kansas has finished taking place, it's in the books, and I'm going to briefly break down the prelims and then give the main card and a few other fights a little bit more love in a follow-up main card video. This card was stacked, but we're here to see how the picks went. Let's say it was a bit mixed. Quick reminder to everyone that I'm finally on Twitter and Instagram at BadMMAMath. I'm pretty active on the former, so hit me up if you want a little direct back and forth. Let's get into this. Oh, this fight. How do I say this? It could probably be best described as a heist, and not the fun ones you usually see on TV. To summarize what was a really shitty fight, and let's be real, we all knew it would be, Edwards did pretty much nothing the entire time. Now, Pudilova did next to nothing, but clearly, and I do mean clearly, she did do enough to win every single round. She had a takedown in every round, she had sub-attempts in rounds 2 and 3, she landed the clearer and more frequent shots. Whatever metric you want to use, Pudilova clearly won this fight. Edwards somehow got her hand raised. I don't even know where to begin with this one. Now, this was Li Jingliang versus Daniel Rodriguez level of robbery times 10. It was worse than that. There was an awkward moment where her name was read as a split and the crowd just suddenly goes eerily quiet. Then they all start unanimously booing and then she flips out and starts like flipping the bird off to everyone in the crowd. She lost, and I wouldn't normally do this, but fuck it, man, I'm taking this one. There are close fights sometimes with clear winners that feel like robberies. This was not one of them. This was another level. Awful. So 1-0, anyone that disagrees, feel free to explain why in the comments. Alright, now Phillips jumped off the sofa for this one, so I'm not going to be too harsh on the guy. Bolanos clearly won the first round, mixed strikes really nicely, and had Phillips dancing by himself to no music at the midpoint of the rounds when he landed a really nice flush cross. No debate, this was 1-0. Second and third are a little bit trickier to score if I'm honest. It is a damage-based sport and more importantly has a scoring system that reflects this, or should, and I thought Gaston hurt Phillips more, and that should be the be-all and end-all, especially at key points in the round. He was controlled at significant moments in rounds 2 and 3, but Phillips didn't really do enough with it. He did threaten a few subs, but not really enough to win the fight for me, and he was competitive to be fair to him. It was clear to me as well that when Gaston did have his hand raised by unanimous decision, that these were judges that were clearly trying to set a tone, that control time was not going to cut it, and that strikes were going to be favoured here. Nice win for Gaston, 2-0. We move into the third fight. Now, women's strawweight is the most skilled division in women's MMA, no question. This, however, was not a showcase for that. I did get this pick wrong. Gomez managed to really hurt Brazil very early in the fight, and to put it simply, Brazil looked surprised that someone had given her a smack, and she did not like it. She was hesitant for the remainder of the bout, refused to go for anything, and this gave Gomez the freedom to open up and basically do what she wanted. Eventually she caught Brazil in the second and put her down for good. TKO, pretty nice. Based on Brazil's previous fights, she clearly doesn't mind being the hammer, but as soon as she took a smack in this one, no mas. Cowardly performance if I'm being real. A really nice win for Gomez though. Glad I told everyone not to bet on this, so fortunately my two parlays were nicely intact. 2-1, let's move on. I went with Lando, the most inconsistent fighter on the roster. Fight started really slowly with both men exchanging leg kicks and generally nice lateral movement from both. With about a minute and a half left in a very close round, Zelhuber caught Lando with a slick cross right that Lando didn't see coming, which dropped him, and Zelhuber jumped on him and started just pounding away with hammer fists. This was an example of good refereeing, and while Lando looked in massive trouble, he was still moving well enough and nothing really looked concussive. I've seen situations like this that have been stopped though. Lando survived and improved in round 2 with nice movement. He was setting traps by switching stances and placed strikes from weird angles, at one point catching Zelhuber with a really nice right. Zelhuber was finding it harder to get reads due to the funky movement, and this was really smart from Lando. Lando confirmed the second round by sweeping his opponent down, and for me it was all to play for in round 3. Now in the third, Zelhuber came out hot and just took over. He's clearly showed improvements since his baffling loss to Ogden, who absolutely sucks. The most significant moment in a close third round was where Zelhuber landed a really nice head kick up the middle that Venata somehow ate. I don't know how. Clear 2-1, and another bad pick for me, but this was a fun fight. Alright, I picked Gillian Robertson, and while she looked really bizarre and sloppy while it was on the feet, when it gets into the realm of grappling and ground time, this woman is going to be a problem at this weight class. After a sloppy exchange in the first half of the first round, where they both really couldn't land, Gillian managed to take Rodriguez down, and despite all the big talk about her being better everywhere, she had no clue what she was doing down there. Robertson is so slick on the ground, her transitions between submission attempts and positions are exemplary, and not to sound like a prick, but you really don't see women do this a lot. She spent the majority of the second part of the first round looking for the right positions. She punished with elbows on top. Robertson knew she had her, and at the beginning of round 2, immediately took a single leg, and the best way I can describe it was she kind of spilled Rodriguez. Eventually, when she was on the ground, she found an arm and managed to latch it up. I have to say this, Rodriguez tapped, and even if she didn't, and she did, there was half a round left at that point. You were either getting your arm broken, or you were getting out of there and then. It was moot because she did tap, and she denied tapping, but she did. Great performance against an undefeated fighter. I kind of enjoyed this one, I must admit. Nice sub win, and this took me to 3-2. Alright, this for me was the fight of the prelims. I picked Cummings, and wow, what a great way for this man to end a long career. This was an absolute beating. Cummings fucked him up in the first, dropped him, was laying down ground and pounds, but Herman basically managed to survive by being a cheating little ginger piece of shit and landing a toe-up kick from the bottom to get some penalty rest time. Cummings was the faster man, felt like he couldn't miss, and Herman looked like he was fighting underwater the whole fight. Cummings dropped him again in the second 3 times, so it was surely a 10-8 at that point. But another illegal up kick from Herman led to a point loss, so I had it 10-7. It's been a while since I've seen one of those. It was that bad a beating. I do have to say this, the refereeing in this one was very inconsistent. Both times when the up kick happened, they weren't put back into the position, and this was especially bad in the first round where a point wasn't docked. There were more knockdowns in the third, I think there were 5 in total. I was kind of disappointed that this didn't go to the cards, as I think it could have been one of the most lopsided 3-round fight cards in UFC history. I had it 10-8 in the first, 10-7 in the second with the point deduction, and maybe even 10-7, at best 10-8 in the third. Great win. Enjoy your retirement, both of you. 4-2 records. I called it. Really fun scrap. If you haven't seen this, go back and watch it. It's worth it. Really fun one. Alright, this for me deserved to be on the main card. It wasn't, and I'm not salty anymore for the simple fact that this wasn't the back and forth 3-round technical masterclass I was expecting. This was a very short fight in the end, and I actually got this one horrendously wrong again. Nicolau looked great to start out. He was picking at range and seemed to be working on a clear game plan to bounce in and out and catch his shots. It was unfortunately during one of these early exchanges that Royval timed it perfectly and threw a really nice knee up the middle as Nicolau tried to float in. He caught him right on the chin and Nicolau fell to a knee. Royval basically swarmed in, and he's so good at this. Landed on top of him, battered him on the ground with unanswered strikes. TKO. Amazing performance. I was hoping for more in this one, but this does shoot Royval into potential contention. 4-3, nice win, and boy was this man humble on the mic after. Alright, last fight on the prelims, and I took Algeo. Bit of a sloppy one and a hard first round to score. Algeo did knock Brown down twice, one of them a little bit more contentiously, but he was taking a lot more damage, I felt, in this round. So I can see arguments for both men winning this round. Brown was very slick with his head movement, full credit to him. Now, the second seemed to start out the same, both men exchanging. Algeo was better at range, and Brown was hurting him more when he got up close. The fight turned when, as both men went in again to swing like retards, Algeo got the better of it by hitting an inside elbow that landed right on the chin, and it dropped Brown instantly. Algeo took the opportunity, locked in a rear naked choke. This was a tough loss for Brown, who had his chances, but this was a really fun way to end the prelims. Nice win for Algeo, got the sub, and this took my record to a miserable 5-3, and it didn't get much better from here, I have to tell you. Okay, I wanted to do this one in one piece, but as you can see, this card was really long and a lot happened. So let's take a breather and return for the main cards. With 5-3 on the prelims, this took me to an overall record of 87-38 this year. Tune in to find out how we did on the main card. Much love to all subscribers, new and old, and I'll see you in a bit for the main card.